I'm currently dwelling on the visual language of film. Specifically, I'm analyzing how camera angles like eye level, high, low, and Dutch can shape a narrative in a soft novel style. I'm focusing on how these angles can guide a first-person perspective. I've been immersed in defining the tone, opting for a humorous, wellness-focused lens with soft jokes and a cozy feel. I'm developing the recurring character, a slightly neurotic but endearing cinematographer who approaches life like a film set. Now, I'm deconstructing specific camera angles, beginning with the eye level angle. This angle gives an equalizing feel, perhaps with the protagonist interacting with something unexpected and equal, like the Roomba. The emotional angle aims for equity and humility. I'm now diving into the impact of low and Dutch angles. A low angle feels empowering, so I'm envisioning the hero shot of daily routines. With the canted angle, I'm thinking about how the tilted frame can portray a messy kitchen, representing an emotional shift toward accepting life's inherent chaos. I'm now integrating new angles to the plan. With a tilted camera, I'm thinking of how I can turn a kitchen into something with style. Then, I am going to plan to get down to the ground. Let's see how I can use this technique to connect with the subject and bring out the humor. Then, I'm going to reach new heights for a better, wider look. I'm now visualizing how mundane tasks, like flossing, can be presented as heroic. I'm focusing on the Dutch angle to embody the chaos of a Monday morning and exploring the humor in neck stiffness, mirroring the camera's tilt. I'm integrating the soft novel style, weaving in terms like gentle and fuzzy. I'm also ensuring the low angle is humorously narcissistic, perhaps like Commander of Floss. My 3-year-old nephew, Leo, was having a meltdown because his banana broke in half. To him, this was not a snack. It was a structural failure of titanic proportions. I started to offer logic from my towering adult height of 5 foot something, but I realized I looked like a skyscraper shouting at a shrub. So I dropped to my knees. Crack pop. My joints provided the sound effects. I brought the camera and my face down to his eye level. Suddenly, the world looked different. Table legs were forests. The fridge was a monolith. At eye level, there is no hierarchy. There is only us. I looked him in the teary eye and said, "Broken bananas taste the same, buddy." He sniffled, handed me a sticky half, and we ate in companionable silence on the rug. The eye level shot taught me that you can't connect with someone while looking down your nose at them. Sometimes, for the sake of peace and fruit, you have to get on the floor. I stood on my sturdy kitchen stepladder to change a bulb, looked down, and gasped. My living room was a disaster zone of cables, throw pillows, and unfiled paperwork, but then I raised the camera and framed a high-angle shot. From up here, looking down, the mess didn't look stressful. It looked cute, vulnerable. The chaotic pile of laundry looked like a soft cloud. The spilled coffee mug looked like a splash of modern art. The high angle diminishes the subject, making it look smaller and less threatening. Oh, I cooed at my own tax returns. Look at you, trying so hard to be complicated. Gaining altitude gave me a rush of affection for my messy life. From the ceiling, my problems looked like toys in a sandbox. I decided to stay up there for a few minutes, feeling like a benevolent cloud god, before descending to actually fold the laundry. I woke up feeling like a damp napkin, low energy, zero charisma. Not today, I told the mirror. I took my camera, set it on the bathroom counter, and angled it sharply upward. I hit record and stood tall, hands on hips, toothbrush in mouth. The low angle is the hero shot. It turns skyscrapers into monuments and tired cinematographers into titans of industry. On the monitor, I looked 10 feet tall. My chin was jutting out heroically. Okay, maybe it was a double chin, but from this angle, it looked like determination. "I am the commander of dental hygiene," the shot screamed. "I am the captain of this Tuesday." I watched the clip while brushing. By the time I rinsed, I actually believed it. If you ever need to feel important, just look up at yourself. You're a giant, and the ceiling is the limit. It was one of those aggressively bright Tuesdays where the sun felt personal. I took my camera to the park, opened the aperture wide to f1.4, and pow, the image was a blown-out, whitewashed disaster. It looked like the visual equivalent of someone shouting "surprise" while you're holding a hot coffee. "Too much light," I whispered, dialing the f-stop down to a sensible f11. The iris of the lens tightened, squinting politely. Suddenly, the sky was blue again, the grass green, and my histogram stopped screaming. It struck me that my own aperture needs adjustment sometimes. when life gets too loud or too Monday. I don't have to stay wide open, absorbing every photon of stress. I can stop down. I can be an F-22, tiny pupil, sharp focus, letting in just enough light to see, but not enough to get sunburned on the inside. I put on my sunglasses. My eyes thanked me. My camera thanked me. The sun continued its rampage, but we were safely stopped down. I stared at my kitchen table. It was a landscape of chaos. 3 unread mailers, a screwdriver, why? A half-eaten apple, and a vase of flowers. First, I shot it with deep focus. Everything was sharp. I could see the wilting petals and the terrifying past-due font on the bill simultaneously. My brain began to itch. It was too much reality per square inch. So I twisted the focus ring. The depth of field shallowed out. The background melted into a buttery blur. The screwdriver became a vague grey blob. The bill became a harmless white rectangle. The only thing sharp, the single, defiant red petal of a tulip. There, I told the room, that's all I can handle today. Shallow depth of field is the ultimate act of self-care. It says, I acknowledge the mess in the background, but right now, I am only emotionally available for this one nice flower. I set up a shot of my laptop screen, glowing with the menacing light of an unfinished email draft. The cursor blinked, mocking me. It was a tragedy in the making. But then, just behind the laptop, sitting on the windowsill, a very fat bumblebee landed. I grabbed the focus ring, whoosh. The laptop screen dissolved into fuzz. The focus traveled physically through the air, sliding past the keyboard, over the coffee mug, and landing crisply on the bumblebee's fuzzy yellow butt. It was a cinematic change of heart, a visual plot twist. One moment, the protagonist, me, was obsessed with productivity. The next, they were contemplating the aerodynamics of a chubby insect. That rack focus felt like my soul unclenching. Sometimes you have to shift your sharpness from the urgent thing to the living thing just to remember that the world is bigger than your inbox. The bee flew away. I deleted the draft. Okay, I saved it as a draft, but I felt like deleting it. It began to rain, cold, grey, miserable rain. The streetlights outside turned on, reflecting off the wet pavement in a way that usually makes me want to crawl under a duvet and hibernate until May. But then I remembered the magic word, bokeh. I pointed the lens out the window and deliberately threw everything out of focus. I spun the ring until the cars were no longer noisy metal boxes, but floating orbs of red and white light. The street lamp wasn't a glare, it was a soft, glowing moon. The background transformed into a sea of fuzzy, luminous circles drifting like champagne bubbles. It looked the way a warm towel feels. Look at that, I murmured to Kevin the plant. It's just traffic, but it looks like a holiday special. Bokeh is the universe's way of apologizing for the mess. It reminds us that if you soften your gaze just enough, even a gridlocked intersection can look like a jewelry box spilled on black velvet. I watched the lights dance, took a deep breath, and let the blurry beauty lull me into a very high-resolution nap. Most of the world operates in squares, 4 beats to a measure, 4 corners in a room, 4 sides to a tax form. It's stable, but sometimes it feels like being stuck in a box. That is why I prescribed myself a waltz. The moment the oompah rhythm started, the corners of my day rounded off. I stood in the kitchen and let the 3/4 time take over. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It is physically impossible to be rigid while waltzing. You have to sway, you have to tilt. It felt like being on a gentle boat ride in the middle of my living room. I grabbed a dish towel as a dance partner and spun in a circle. The centrifugal force seemed to fling my worries outward, away from my center, leaving me dizzy and strangely light. The waltz taught me that when life gets heavy, you don't always have to push through it in a straight line. Sometimes you can just spin around it until you get the giggles. I am a person who apologizes when a table bumps into me. I needed to borrow some spine. Enter the tango. As the accordion bandoneon breathed its dramatic sharp sighs and the violin snapped into a staccato rhythm, I felt a transformation. I wasn't just some guy in socks. I was a protagonist in a high-stakes drama involving a rose and a hardwood floor. Tango is all about the look. It's a stare-down. I decided to tango with my insecurities. Oh, you think I'm awkward? I thought, doing a sharp head turn toward the laundry pile. Watch this footwork. I stalked across the room with intense deliberation. Tango gave me permission to be serious, sharp, and commanding. It reminded me that passion isn't just for movie stars, it's for anyone willing to walk to the refrigerator with absolute, unshakable conviction. I was having a slump day. Physically, I resembled a melted candle. Mentally, I was a dial-up modem. I needed a march. I put on a Sousa track, and suddenly my spine remembered it had vertebrae. A march is a very polite but firm drill sergeant who lives in your ear and says, "Left, right, let's go, the coffee isn't going to drink itself." There is something deeply comforting about the inevitability of a march. It doesn't wonder where it's going, it knows. It organizes the chaos of the mind into a neat two-step grid. I found myself matching my walking pace to the snare drum. Shoulders went back, chin went up. I wasn't just walking to the mailbox, I was leading a parade of one. The neighbors might have been confused by my determined strut, but I didn't care. The brass section said I was important, and I believed them. My brain has a bad habit of holding board meetings at 11:30 p.m. The agenda usually includes, did I lock the car? And what if bees disappear? I needed an override code. I found it in a lullaby. We assume these are for babies, but let's be honest, nobody needs a nap more than a grown adult with a mortgage. The melody was simple, rocking back and forth between two safe notes like a pendulum. It was a sonic weighted blanket. It whispered, "Nothing matters right now. The emails can wait. The bees are sleeping." It gave me permission to power down. The complexity of the world dissolved into a soft, hummable haze. I realized that treating myself like a toddler, warm milk, soft blanket, simple song, was the most sophisticated form of self-care available. Within 4 bars, the board meeting was adjourned. I spend a lot of time looking at screens that emit blue light and anxiety. Folk music is the antidote. It feels like it's made of wood and wool. I listened to a singer with an acoustic guitar tell a story about a coal miner in 1942. I have never been a coal miner. I get winded walking up a flight of stairs. Yet I felt a deep ancestral ache in my chest. That's the magic of folk. It connects you to a lineage of human experience. It's a history book that you can hum. The songs are like heirloom quilts, stitched together by generations of people who just wanted to explain how hard and beautiful life can be. Listening to the 3 simple chords, I felt less lonely in my modern glass box. I was part of the great strumming chain of humanity. I didn't have a hearth to sit by, so I turned on the radiator, closed my eyes, and let the story warm my feet. I sat on my porch feeling sorry for myself because the Wi-Fi was down. It felt like a crisis. Then I put on a recording of a spiritual. The voices rose up, raw, unaccompanied, and powerful enough to crack the pavement. My petty frustration evaporated instantly. This music wasn't just sound, it was survival technology. It was a rope thrown across a chasm. The harmonies were thick and sturdy, built to carry a weight that no single voice could bear alone. I listened to the call and response, the way the singers leaned on each other for support. It reminded me that resilience isn't about never falling down, it's about having a song that helps you stand back up. The spiritual taught me that hope is a muscle, and sometimes you have to sing it into existence. I looked at my router. It was still blinking red. But compared to the mountains these songs had moved, waiting for a signal felt like a very manageable hill. I woke up feeling grey. My mood was a wet sock. I needed medication, but since my pharmacy wasn't open, I prescribed myself 5 minutes of gospel. The track started with a Hammond organ doing a little glissando that sounded like a giggle, and then the choir came in. It was impossible to stay slumped. Gospel doesn't ask if you're happy, it grabs you by the collar and says, "We are celebrating right now, get in the car." The tambourine started shaking, the bass line started walking, and I found my foot tapping against my will. It was joy served hot, straight from the oven. It was sonic vitamins for a vitamin D deficient soul. By the time the choir director shouted, "Take it up!" and the key modulated higher, I was clapping offbeat in my kitchen, smiling at the toaster. The wet sock feeling was gone, replaced by a warm, fuzzy buzzing in my chest. Hallelujah, indeed. There is something deeply comforting about knowing exactly what comes next. In a world of plot twists, a hymn is a promise kept. I stood in the back of the room, metaphorically in my living room, and hummed along to Amazing Grace. I knew the words, my grandmother knew the words, her grandmother knew the words. It felt like community karaoke, but without the pressure to be cool. The melody was simple, 4 square, and sturdy as an oak table. It didn't demand virtuosity, it just asked for participation. As I sang verse 3, the one about dangers, toils, and snares, I felt connected to everyone else who had ever sung it. We were all reading from the same uplifting subtitles, agreeing that, yes, life is hard, but yes, grace is pretty good. It was a musical group hug that stretched across centuries. I finished the song, took a deep breath, and felt surprisingly anchored. I tried meditation once. I sat for 3 minutes and thought about sandwiches the entire time. My brain is too noisy for silence. That is why chant is my loophole. I put on a Gregorian loop, a single unison line floating in a reverberant stone space. It was minimalism with a purpose. The melody didn't go anywhere fast. It just circled around a few notes, like a bird riding a thermal. It gave my sandwich brain something to hold on to so the rest of me could actually relax. It was mesmerizing. The repetition wasn't boring. It was hypnotic. It smoothed out the wrinkles in my frontal lobe. I realized that the monks were onto something. By limiting the input, no drums, no harmony, no flash, they created a maximum output of peace. I sat there for 20 minutes, and for the first time in forever, the sandwiches were silent. I trip over flat surfaces. My relationship with gravity is one of mutual disrespect. Watching a ballet, therefore, is like watching a sci-fi movie where the laws of physics have been repealed. I sat in the audience, YouTube, and watched a dancer leap into the air and just stay there for a second too long. It was storytelling without a single word. She spun on one toe, telling me she was in love. She fell to the floor, telling me she was heartbroken. She did a series of rapid jumps, telling me she was probably very tired but hiding it well. It was magical. It reminded me that my body is capable of more than just transporting my head from the pillow to the desk. Ballet is the art of defying the heavy things, literally and metaphorically. Seeing her float across the stage made me feel lighter too. I stood up and did a very clumsy pirouette in the kitchen. My natural posture usually resembles a cooked shrimp. I slump, I curve, I merge with the upholstery, but the minuet and trio is the chiropractor of music. As the 3/4 time signature began, elegant, poised, polite, I felt an invisible string pull the top of my head toward the ceiling. Suddenly, I wasn't just sitting in a beanbag chair, I was holding court at Versailles. The minuet was the formal part, the shoulders back, chin up, energy that made me feel capable and dignified, even though I was wearing socks with holes in the toes. Then came the trio, the middle section. It was softer, quieter, a little more relaxed. It was the musical equivalent of loosening your corset or sweatpants drawstring to take a deep breath before returning to the dance. It taught me that I can be poised without being rigid. I walked to the kitchen with the grace of a duke, poured a glass of water, and bowed to the toaster. It didn't bow back, but the dignity remained. I take things too seriously. I worry about the expiration date on the milk. I worry about the tone of an email I sent 3 years ago. The scherzo is the antidote to this heaviness. Meaning joke in Italian, the scherzo rushed into my headphones like a golden retriever who has just stolen a slipper. It was fast, erratic, and delightedly mischievous. The rhythm played tricks on me. 1, 2, 3 became 1, 2, 3, shifting the ground beneath my feet just to see if I was paying attention. But it wasn't mean. It was inviting me to laugh. It was a sonic tickle fight. It reminded me that the world is absurd, and trying to control it is like trying to herd cats. The scherzo dared me to stop furrowing my brow and just run with the absurdity. By the time the movement ended in a flurry of notes, I was out of breath and grinning at my own reflection. The milk might expire, but for now, we dance. Commitment is hard. Sometimes the idea of a 40-minute emotional journey sounds exhausting. That is why I love the suite. It's the musical equivalent of a flight of craft sodas or a plate of tapas. I put on a Baroque suite and was delighted to find it was just a collection of snacks. First, an allemande, a serious German-style cracker. Then a courante, a fast French puff pastry. Then a sarabande, a slow, sad olive. It was perfect for my fragmented attention span. I didn't have to hold on to one feeling for too long. If I didn't like the mood, I just had to wait 3 minutes for the giga to start. The suite taught me that life doesn't always have to be one giant cohesive narrative. It can be a series of small, disconnected moments, some fast, some slow, some salty, some sweet, and they all fit on the same plate perfectly. I needed a reset, not a nap, but a full factory reboot of my soul. So I sat down for a symphony. It's a big ask, 4 movements, 40 minutes, 80 musicians, but it is the ultimate self-help book. Chapter 1. Allegro validated my stress. It was loud, dramatic, and full of conflict. I know, the violin screamed. Everything is chaotic. Chapter 2, Adagio, was the good cry. It slowed down and handed me a tissue, letting me mourn the fact that I dropped my toast this morning. Chapter 3, Minuet or Scherzo, told me to shake it off and find some rhythm. And Chapter 4, Finale? That was the victory lap. By the time the brass section was blasting the final chords, I felt like I had climbed a mountain, defeated a dragon, and filed my taxes, all while sitting on the couch. The symphony reminded me that big feelings are manageable if you break them down into movements. You struggle, you cry, you dance, and eventually you triumph. I often struggle with the balance between look at me and please don't look at me. The concerto understands this duality perfectly. I listened to a violin concerto where the soloist was clearly the main character. She was doing flips and tricks, playing faster than physically possible, demanding the spotlight. But the orchestra wasn't jealous, they were the hype team. When the violin took a breath, the orchestra surged forward to say, "Yes, wasn't that great? Now listen to this." It was a friendly duel, a conversation where everyone made each other sound better. The conductor raised his baton, and I braced myself. The quick step is what happens when the foxtrot drinks 4 shots of espresso and realizes it's late for a flight. "Ready?" my partner whispered. She looked calm. I looked like I was about to defuse a bomb. The music exploded, a jazzy, frantic trumpet blast that sounded like a chase scene from an old cartoon. We launched. My upper body remained a picture of frozen, tuxedoed elegance, chin up, frame wide, a serene statue of civility. Meanwhile, below the waist, my legs were running for their lives. Slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick. We scattered across the floor in a series of hops and locksteps. I felt like a duck, calm on the surface, but underneath my feet were churning the water with violent desperation. We did a woodpecker, tapping our feet against the floor at a speed that threatened to ignite the varnish. "Smile," she hissed. I bared my teeth. We were galloping, we were skipping, we were defying the laws of aerobic capacity while wearing formal wear. By the time we hit the final pose, chest heaving against my starch, stiff shirt, I realized quick-step isn't a dance. It's just a panic attack with better posture. The cowbell. It always starts with that judgmental cowbell. Clank, clank, clank. 2, 3, cha-cha-cha, I counted under my breath. The rhythm was a bully. It demanded I fit 3 distinct steps into a slice of time barely large enough for one. It was the buy one get 2 free of footwork, and I was rushing to cash in the coupon. I straightened my leg, locking the knee to make my hip pop out to the side. Snap. I felt sassy. I felt rhythmic. I looked at my partner and gave her a look that said, "I am a Latin lover," while my brain screamed, "Lockstep, Cuban break, don't trip." The dance is a flirtation, a game of cat and mouse played in high heels. I chased her, she pushed me away. I stepped forward, she stepped back, and always that extra cha. It's a rhythmic hiccup. Just when you think you can relax on a beat, the music insists you shuffle your feet again. I was shaking my shoulders, wiggling my hips, and doing advanced calculus to ensure my feet landed on the one. I finished with a spin that landed exactly on the beat, feeling like I had just successfully argued a parking ticket in Spanish. The lights dimmed. The music slowed to a tempo that suggested the band was falling asleep. This was rumba, the dance of love, or as I call it, the art of standing still while sweating. I took a step. A single, solitary step. In any other dance, this would take a fraction of a second. In rumba, it took a geological age. I had to transfer my weight from toe to heel, settle into my hip, and look deeply into my partner's eyes with smoldering intensity. The problem with smoldering intensity is that it's hard to maintain when you are barely moving. We were standing so close I could count her eyelashes. The tension in the room rose. The air grew heavy. I dragged my foot across the floor, creating resistance against the nothingness, trying to look like I was wading through molasses made of pure desire. "Settle the hip," my brain commanded. I pushed my hip out until it felt like it might detach. My partner caressed her own face, a rumba staple, and looked at me with what the audience thought was longing, but I knew was a silent plea. "If you step on my foot during this slow turn, I will end you." It was intimate, it was sultry, and it was the most stressful 3 minutes of inactivity of my life. My legs were jelly, my lungs were burning, and then the DJ put on Hit the Road, Jack, at 176 beats per minute. "Jive!" someone shouted, clearly a sadist. I grabbed my partner's hand, and we began the pump. My knees were pistons. I was kicking, flicking, and retracting my legs like they were made of rubber bands. Jive is the only dance that requires you to be a cheerleader, a rock and roll star, and a kangaroo simultaneously.